This is Pragya, and I bring to you excerpts from the latest issue of Outlook. Suicide isn't a moral question. The issue looks at serious public health concerns that suicide poses. 7,03,000 people die by suicide every year, according to the World Health Organization. Suicide is a political, economic, societal, cultural, and mental health question. September 10th is World Suicide Prevention Day, and the issue delves into farmer suicide, student suicide, and suicides that have been caused by trauma. India decriminalized suicide with Mental Health Act in 2017. In the introduction, editor Chinky Sinha begins with a quote from Susanna Kayson's memoir, Girl Interrupted, which was published in 1993. Why did she do it? Nobody dared to ask, because what courage? Who had the courage to burn herself? 20 aspirin, a little slit alongside the veins of the arm, maybe even a bad half hour standing on a roof. We've all had those, and somewhat more dangerous things, like putting a gun in your mouth. But you put it there, you taste it, it's cold and greasy. Your finger is on the trigger, and you find that a whole world lies between this moment and the moment you have been planning, when you'll pull the trigger. That world defeats you. You put the gun back in the drawer. You'll have to find another way. What was that moment like for her? The moment she lit the match. Had she already tried roofs and guns and aspirins? Or was it just an inspiration? Chinky continues. In 2019, as I waited in the immigration line at the San Francisco airport, a message beeped on my phone. Do you have a minute to listen? Regarding, I asked. I'm feeling suicidal. Stay wherever you are, it'll pass. The world defeated him then. He didn't go ahead. He decided to live. He was a stranger, someone you know on social media, a projected persona. He said he had felt betrayed. He was in love, a love that made him feel helpless. He said there was nobody he could talk to. His best friend said he was busy. We spoke for a long time until the urge passed. He said thank you. I checked on him a few times later and he said he was fine. But I remember the language, stark, despairing, and honest. A cry for help. Another time, a friend said she has seen the green dot against my name, and in the nocturnal hours, she had decided to send a message about her feeling like that she should end all her agony herself. As she had waded through what she called the dark tunnel, the green dot made her pause. That pause was everything. Thanks for understanding, she said as she hung up. I don't know if I did, or if I do, or anyone really understands what brings someone close to the edge. In 1942, Albert Camus, in The Myth of Sisyphus, deals with suicide as a philosophical question. Sisyphus, a Greek mythological character condemned by the gods, rolls a rock up to the top of a mountain, only to have the rock roll back down to the bottom every time he reaches the top. He chooses to live, and Camus argues that Sisyphus has indeed freed himself of his punishment and even triumphed by accepting it, and that the realization of the absurd doesn't justify suicide. The idea of absurd lies in the juxtaposition of human need to find the meaning of life and the unreasonable silence of the universe in response. The struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy, Camus writes towards the end. But I can't imagine Sisyphus to be happy. The rock is heavy with despair, and that despair sometimes isn't about finding any meaning and coming to terms with the fact that there is none. Language has its limitations. Sometimes I feel that Sisyphus should have let the rock be. We would have had another ending where we wouldn't have to emulate Sisyphus' resilience, where Sisyphus could have revolted differently, where Sisyphus would have shown to us what despair means. The issue of communicative challenges posed by mental illness is a big one. Often, literature provides that language. In Darkness Visible, a memoir of madness, William Styron writes, a phenomena that a number of people have noted while in deep depression is the sense of being accompanied by a second self. A wraith-like observer who, not sharing the dementia of his double, is able to watch with dispassionate curiosity as his companion struggles against the oncoming disaster or decides to embrace it. There is a theatrical quality about all this, and during the next several days, as I went about stolidly preparing for extinction, I couldn't shake off a sense of melodrama. A melodrama in which I, the victim, to be of self-murder, was both the solitary actor and a lone member of the audience. Styron checked himself in a hospital that December. His depression had got worse. In a piece in the Vanity Fair magazine in 1989 called Darkness Visible, he revisited that bitterly cold December evening when he felt like giving up and could not survive another day. And just as powerfully as I realized I could not commit this desecration on myself, I drew upon some last gleam of sanity to perceive the terrifying dimensions of the mortal predicament. I woke my wife up, and soon telephone calls were made. The next day, I was admitted to the hospital, he writes. The extra-verbal experiences are out there for us to read, to make sense of. The disordered world understands little, judges more. Suicide isn't just a philosophical question, it is also a societal, political, economic, and a cultural question. It is a public health question. There shouldn't be any morality attached to any prevention attempts when it comes to the desire to die. That desire and mental illness are closely related, and therefore, the autonomy of the decision to die is questionable. There must be an attitudinal shift that takes years and years. We, as a nation, have made some progress with the Mental Healthcare Act 2017, which decriminalized attempted suicide. But that's not enough. We aren't sensitive. We lack the language. We put too much premium on resilience. We aren't allowed to be weak. We don't understand despair. For these and more, read the latest issue of Outlook.